welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Rishika Barwa. The election in Punjab is a cliffhanger, a fiercely fought, multi-cornered contest. But away from the many twists and turns of the political battle, the next government in Punjab has its task cut out. The issue of jobs, drugs, migration, the lack of new industry, the farmers' crisis, border security are among a whole host of issues that are staring at the new leadership in Punjab. Today in this special episode, we'll be joined by a panel of experts to talk about Punjab. And in the studio with me, Mr. Vikramjit Sahni, Padma Shri, International President of the World Punjabi Organization and Chairman of the Sun Foundation. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us in the studios. Also joining us on the show, we have Dr. Amarjeet Singh Grewal, former Registrar, Punjab Technical University. Dr. S.S. Johal, Padma Bhushan, former Vice Chancellor, Punjab Agriculture University and a former consultant with the FAO. Professor Lakhvinder Singh Gill, economist, professor at the Centre for Development Economics and Innovation Studies, Punjab University. Thank you all very much for being with us on NDTV today. Mr. Sahni, you've been doing a lot of work in Punjab and for Punjabis outside the state as well. What according to you are the top 5 challenges for the next government in Punjab?
Rishika, in 1960s, when India was facing starvation and food supplies shortage, and these supplies were coming from USA under, I remember, PL 480 program, it was the Punjabi farmers who brought a green revolution. In 1970s, Punjab occupied the top position in the country with highest per capita income, with a lot of development plans by a great visionary, the then Chief Minister Sardar Pratap Singh Kairo, who set up Chandigarh, who set up industrial towns of Faridabad, Kurukshetra University, Punjab Agriculture University. But now, coming to the 5 biggest current challenges, I think the first one is burgeoning debt of 2.8 lakh crore. Debt of Punjab is very alarming. And I was reading that the interest liability of this loan is more than 50% of the government's revenue. So this is the biggest challenge, and on the top of it, free soaps and freebies are being given to take political advantages rather than chalking out evolving a long-term sustainable economic development strategy. The second major issue I feel is lack of jobs, industrial growth, unemployment, migration of industry which happened during the 1980s turmoil and economic instability. And third issue which we are all concerned is the large-scale migration where every second Punjabi youth wants or are going to countries like UK and Canada. And the matter of concern is most of them are not well educated and skilled. Fourthly, as all of us know, the drug menace have been affecting the youth of Punjab, partly being the border state, easy availability of drugs, and partly because of lack of jobs and unemployment. But this issue has to be addressed. But to our utter shock and surprise, I read the other day, the documented election commission caught drugs worth rupees 570 crores during election. This has been documented. So this is simply, I feel, obnoxious and very worrisome and very shameful for us that during even elections, election commission confiscated or hold drugs for 570 crores. And lastly and fifthly, agriculture has been the main backbone of Punjab economy, breadbasket of India. However, the plight of Punjabi farmers is well known, who is suppressed under heavy debts. And I think despite the MSP assurance by the government, a lot needs to be done, whether it is rotation of crops or rather than concentrating on wheat and rice, also addressing the acute water situation in Punjab, which is reported to be exhausting in just 13 years. So I think these are the 5 crucial issues facing the Punjab right now.
Well, thanks so much for that, that excellent overview really at the very beginning of this discussion. And we hope to sort of, delve into further detail through the course of this conversation. Professor Lakhvinder Gill, if I can come to you at the moment, one of the first things that Mr. Sani has talked about is the state of the economy. What do you think are, the main challenges that are facing the economy of Punjab at the moment, given the debt burden he's talked about? How do you look at the SOPs and freebies that have been announced in the run-up to the elections?
Rishika, I think that the most important issue which we have to focus here is that Punjab economy has been suffering for a long period of time from a multi-dimensional crisis. The 5 issues which has been focused by Mr. Sani are reflecting to the multi-dimensional, deep-rooted crisis of Punjab economy. I think in the last 30 years period of time, when the democratically elected governments successfully completed their full 5-year terms, the fiscal policy remains dysfunctional. The debt which is talked about by Mr. Sani, equivalent to 53.3% of the gross state domestic product. So this has in fact generated a kind of situation in Punjab that has created the conditions of a famine-like, because investment has deserted from Punjab and investment has not been taking place because of 2 fundamental problems. One is that the role of state during the reforms period in the last 30-year period of time has been continuously being reduced. And alternatively, it was expected that the private investment will be able to take the opportunities. But what has happened here is that the political leadership in Punjab has tried to capture the whole businesses, and then you'll find created the conditions that private sector has no place to invest in Punjab. So therefore you'll find that private investors has actually deserted Punjab. But more importantly, I think that the deep-rooted problem in which the Punjab is happening, that is the agriculture sector, where you'll find that usually in the most developed country as well as East Asian country experiences, there is a transformation process happened largely in 30 to 40 years period of time. But Punjab has largely overstayed in the agriculture sector of the economy, where you'll find the population as well as the workforce, which is absolutely has been increasing rather than decreasing over a period of time. That has actually put the Punjab economy in a deep root crisis.
Professor Garewal, you have been a renowned educationist and have written so much about Punjab and its youth. Dr. Lakhvinder Gill has raised a very dynamic, very current issue of the large-scale migration of Punjabi youth and reasons for that, and how we arrest that, and how the youth of Punjab becomes part of the economic progress and prosperity of Punjab. Maybe you can develop on that.
Thank you, Sani sir. In fact, people in Punjab are asking 3 sets of questions. They ask you, they ask each other these questions. The first question is, Punjab da ki banega? What will the future of Punjab? After this farmers' agitation, people have started asking another question, that is, Punjab de kisana tera ki banega? What's the future of Punjab peasantry? And the third question, which the people of Punjab has started asking during and after this election, is what would be the fate of government in Punjab? If I start with the third question, the fate of Punjab, the fate of government in Punjab, what is that? In fact, I would, if the present kind of regime the political parties establishments continues this way, means the new liberal regime continues, then I would say that the future of Punjab is redundant, or Punjab state is redundant, irrelevant. The government of India and the corporate would dominate. But there is a remedy. This can be corrected. That lies in the second question of the peasantry of Punjab. What is the future of the peasantry of Punjab? I would say that the future of the peasantry of Punjab lies in the future of the villages of Punjab. During Green Revolution, there was a disconnect between the peasantry and the village. Previously, the village was connected to the farm. Everything, all inputs used to come from the village, and all produce used to go to the village and then to the market. Means value addition was done at the level of village. But during the Green Revolution, what happened? Infrastructure and technology were provided to the farm, but not to the village. Means all the technology regarding, as far as the crop production is concerned, were provided to the farmers.
Right.
Including the infrastructure. But on the other hand, the technology and the infrastructure which was required for the processing, for the value addition, and for the market,
Right.
to the village was not provided.
Right.
That the produce started flowing to the market, bypassing the village. So in this sense, the villages were alienated. They were redundant. They were of no use. But if we start providing technology and infrastructure to the village for processing and for value addition and for markets, then it's possible that our agriculture can revive.
Dr. Johal, if you'd like to weigh in here, on the farmers' issue. Now, the 3 farm laws have been repealed. It's not, however, altered the ground reality. There's still large-scale migration, there's exploitation. What's the way forward, for the betterment of the farmer community in Punjab?
I think the 3 speakers have quite extensively has painted the picture of the Punjab on economic, political fronts. Punjab is a compendium of problems. It's which side you might see, you find the problem. Let me come to the solutions rather than the problem.
Right.
You cannot look at one sector separately. You have to have the integration and coordination of all the sectors of the economy. And you cannot look at the agriculture sector just the farmers. It's the rural economy which is actually the problem. So you have a kind of a holistic picture you have to look into. If I look to the rural economy, there's a problem of unemployment, underemployment, disguised employment, and there are drugs, income problems. If you look to Punjab, there are hardly 6% people who are farmers who are above 10 hectares. And small farmers, you can say up to 4 hectares, forms about 90% of the people, 95% people. Question is their income problems. Let me present the picture, you see, and what is the solution to this. Now, solution for this is the small farmers must be turned into part-time farmers. How to do it? You spread the industry and service system in the villages. What you need to do is the small and medium industries and startups. They should be spread in the villages.
Right.
Giving facilities and long-term concession on taxes.
So you've raised some very important points, and the issue of jobs, the issue of drugs, and the issue of skilling is something which is key, and we're going to slip into a very short break at this juncture, and we hope to address some of these key issues on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Punjab, the way forward, and we're discussing key challenges that lie ahead for the government in Punjab. And Mr. Sani, very interestingly, we left off when we were talking about the farmers issue, but also, central to the issues in Punjab is the drug problem and the issue of skilling. You've been working very closely in these areas.
Yeah, yes, Rishka, our Sun Foundation. We have been working, we have been running Swami Vivekananda Drug De-Addiction and Rehab Center in Amritsar very successfully. We have tried to rehabilitate thousands of youth and skilling them. But the more particular emphasis which we are giving is, like I'm happy to share with you that our multi-skill development center with PSDM, we have our first batch of 400 students with 100% placement.
Right.
So the job issue which our Dr. Gill and Professor Garewal and Dr. Johal were saying, I think there is a mismatch. There is no demand for graduates or postgraduates. The industry wants, we have to do the skill mapping. As Dr. Gill have said, the agro-based industry, like we have 100% placement in hospitality, electrician, plumber, fitter, the mechanics, solar panel technician, graphic designers, all coming in Punjab. And
Sure.
It's my dream and our dream to set up these world-class centers with international linkages. Because I happen to be on the board of National Skill Development Council, and I have made a plea that we should educate our youth so that even if whosoever wants to go to UK and Canada, at least they go skilled and, make some earning, and they do. So I think the skilling is the answer to the jobs and unemployment. Of course, industry part is there, which we hope that the new government, new governors will take.
Very interesting that you say that, and we just have time for closing comments. Professor Grewal, if you just want to take off from what Mr. Sani just said, very interesting how skilling in a certain sense will also perhaps be looked at, to solve the issue of the large-scale migration, something that you touched upon in your opening remarks.
The one thing which I emphasize is that we must see migration not as a threat but as an opportunity. There is one indicator which is called Economic Global Index. It's based on 59 different criteria like youth unemployment, quality and cost of education, access to technology and entrepreneurship, and political representation, etc. Out of 181 countries, India's position is 122nd, a very poor condition. So, the migration is obvious, but both things are to be interlinked. One is emigration, the other is immigration. So taking these issues like Mr. Sani has rightly emphasized the skills, I think there is a fault in our education system or even skill development. I think four things are interconnected, integrated. One is to learn, second is to earn, third is to create, and fourth is to discover yourself.
Dr. Gill, like Professor Garewal have said, and you have been working, what do you think that this kind of, you will agree with us that the Punjabis, the same Punjabis have done so well in UK, in Canada. Even I was reading that per capita income of those Punjabis are much more than the local population here. So why Punjabis have done so well abroad? I'm sure if given the same opportunities in Punjab, they will also do exceedingly well. I hope, Professor Gill, you agree with me?
Dr. Sani, the issue fundamentally with the Punjab economy is that we have engaged for a long period of time in a situation which is low productivity, low wage rate.
Yes.
So that's why you'll find that until the agriculture industry and the services sector are able to generate jobs which are relatively high productivity and high wage rate, you cannot retain the younger workforce in Punjab. And that's why the same workforce which you have been talking about is not skilled. Going abroad and the institutional framework in which they work, they are able to work in high productivity, high wage economies, and they earn really very well, and they progress over a period of time very well.
Yes.
So progression in the profession and is very, very important.
Professor Gill, what is the way forward to getting a new industry and public spending for capital formation in Punjab?
I think that the state has to return back as a developmental orientation. They have to plan the projects, generate the conditions where you'll find that the current amount of workforce available and the equivalent amount of activities to be created in Punjab, and taking along the private sector in a manner so that high wage, high productivity, high wage economies to be created.
Dr. Joel, there cannot be a better expert on agriculture. So before we conclude the program, tell us 2-3 steps which can transform the Punjab agriculture and lives of our poor Punjabi farmers. Very briefly.
Take the industry and the services to the rural areas and create integration with the agriculture sector. This is taking the job to the doorsteps of the people. We don't need big industries. Even if there are few, it's a different thing. But we need small, medium, and startups to spread up in the villages. Then create in the villages in every habitat, create the playgrounds. Playgrounds with very low cost games like football, volleyball, plastic ball, kabaddi, and the wrestling, and open one library there. If the people are employed in local industry and services and they come back home in the evening, and if the evening is engaged, then drug problem.
Yes, that has a positive mind.
Well, I think there are a whole host. I'm sorry I have to interrupt you here. I think there have been a whole host of very, very important points that you all have made. We wish we had time to sort of carry on this conversation. I'll give the last word, Mr. Sani. You began with a beautiful summary and overview. What would be your concluding remarks?
Thanks, Rashika. I think Punjab definitely needs a good governance, special package for survival, economic progress, creating jobs for youth, and also complete unity among all Punjabis, irrespective of caste, creed, religion. As we have seen, rampant, casteism was very rampant in the election campaign against our teachings of Guru. And let's hope all Punjabis work together to bring about a Punjabi renaissance. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that's the perfect note to end on. Thank you all very much for joining us on this very special show. Like I said, the government has its task cut out. Where should they begin? Well, this program would be a good starting point. Thank you all very much for tuning in.
It's our joint task as a civil society also. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you very much.